had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So then I'm doing IT, and when I go to plug the servers in, they become sentient, and they won't let us access our network unless we forward their chain emails and memes to more and more and more people, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant finds and invites best fit candidates to apply, so you can discover talent you may have missed. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
Hi, we're sisters, Amy and Nancy Harrington, founders of the Passionistas Project, where we believe that every woman deserves to be seen, heard, and celebrated. Our mission is simple but powerful, to give women a platform to tell their unfiltered stories, stories that inspire, challenge, and break the silence around what it really means to follow your passions. On each episode, we have conversations about courage, authenticity, and the messy, beautiful journey of living life unapologetically. Today, we're talking with Jane Pilger. Jane guides her clients out of an exhausting cycle of shame, restriction, and loss of control, and into a relationship with food and a body that's grounded in trust. Her trauma-informed, compassionate approach will change the way you understand yourself and what healing can look like. So, in a long overdue conversation, we are so happy to welcome Jane to the podcast today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited that we finally were able to make this connect. You know, I just truly believe everything happens in the timing that it's supposed to, even if it is very different from what we ever imagined. So I just know that our timing today is going to be great. And I just look forward to just seeing what we end up talking about today.
Absolutely. So we want to start by talking about, what are you most passionate about?
You know, I think I feel like that answer would really vary day to day. But I would say, answering it today, I'm most passionate about really helping people understand why they do the things that they don't like. So for example, this often shows up for people with food, but if food isn't the thing for you, that's like, ugh, I keep doing this thing that I don't want to be doing. Why do I do this thing? I love helping people understand why they do that thing, understanding our deeper patterns, kind of I really consider it like looking under the hood at what's happening underneath the surface that leads us to do the things that we might prefer not to be doing, and really just see them in a different way with a different lens. And when we can start seeing ourselves with curiosity, with compassion, instead of shame and judgment, it just changes everything, whether it's food, whether it's how you're showing up in a relationship, or how you're showing up at work, or the way you're looking at, your options in life. It really does change everything. So I'm just passionate about, I think it's helping people see themselves through a new lens.
So where does that come from? Did you have your own journey through that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had my own 25 plus year struggle with binge eating. My first binge happened my first semester in college. And of course, I didn't know it at the time, but many people's struggles with food, particularly binge eating, start in college. And I was no different. And so my first semester in college, I had received a care package, and it was filled with candy bars, a bunch of little miniature sized candy bars. It was October. And I don't remember the binge itself, but what I do remember is sitting on the floor, surrounded by that empty box and just empty wrappers all around me. And I had eaten the entire box. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, what have I just done? And I had so much shame for what I had done. I did not want anybody to know. And I was determined that I was going to never do that again. And so I started doing all of these things to stop binge eating, which unfortunately were keeping me in the cycle. And I had so much shame. I was very concerned about how I appeared from the outside, and I didn't want anybody to know. And so I really just I kept it a secret for so long, unknowingly doing these things that were kind of keeping me in the cycle. And fortunately, I'm very stubborn, I guess you could say, resilient, determined. And I just kept, I am going to figure this out. And I pretty much said, if I ever do figure this out, I really want to help other people not have to go through the same struggle that I have, or at least help them see that they're not alone in it, because it's such an isolating experience. And so really so much of my work has been really kind of born from that. So I went after college, I ended up going into I went into public accounting. I became a CPA and I was an auditor for a period of time, met my husband. Then I went into commercial real estate, was working on commercial real estate development projects. And these were all fine, but I didn't really feel like I was making a difference. And in the meantime, I still am having my challenges with food, and I'm trying to figure it out. And as I really kind of, for me, the last piece was learning about the nervous system. And when I really understood about the nervous system and what was happening with the nervous system and how my nervous system and my eating, a lot of my eating was in response to a dysregulated nervous system, I was like, oh, this changes everything. And so then that really being kind of like that final piece helped me put everything together. And then I was like, I want to do this. I mean, yes, I can do real estate. Yes, I can do accounting, but I feel such an impact when I'm talking with other people who about their own struggles with food, and I'm helping them see that they're not alone, and I'm helping them see patterns that they couldn't see or make sense of why they're doing what they're doing, and giving them tools and new ways to think about it so that the struggles with food can kind of fall away instead of it being just this kind of constant fight. And that's really been my journey.
Yeah. So now you mentioned the nervous system was the key to figuring this out. So talk a little bit more about that. What does that mean, and how does that trigger responses?
Yeah, so I really talk about 8 reasons. There's 8 primary reasons that people struggle with food, and each reason has its own solution. So one of those reasons is the nervous system. And the nervous system, our nervous system is always running in the background. It's a two-way street. So it's the communication between our brain and our body, and our body and our brain. It's the way that they send signals back and forth to each other. And the brain and the nervous system are always scanning, and they're always asking one question. They're always asking, am I safe? And when it perceives danger, whether it's real danger or perceived danger, it will send us into the sympathetic state of our nervous system, what we know as the fight or flight state of our nervous system, so that we can run away from the danger, or we can fight the danger. If there's so much danger, there's so much threat that I can't even run away, I couldn't even fight this thing, then we go into more of the dorsal kind of collapse place, where we freeze, where we can't move, where we find ourselves on the couch or unable to get out of bed. And a lot of times what will happen is that in that activated nervous system response, if I'm in fight or flight, there's this excess energy. The body sends a lot of energy through the brain, the body, the nervous system sends a lot of this excess energy through the system so that we can run away or we can fight. And we experience this. And you might notice it, like if you're feeling really anxious, if you're really worried, if you're really overwhelmed, you can feel that energy, right, that you have in your body. Well, we can't live in that state forever. Nobody can. And so we need to figure something out to bring us down. And what many of us discover is that food works. Food helps to kind of bring that energy down kind of really quickly. Now, often what happens, especially with binge eating, is that we eat and we keep eating so much that we end up kind of down in that more collapse state. And then we end up kind of going back and forth between that kind of collapse, I'm on the couch, and that I have to eat a lot right now. But a lot of times it's in response to what's actually happening in the nervous system. And it's something that we may have discovered when we were young. When something happened, we discovered so many clients have stories of maybe they were home after school by themselves, and they used food to kind of calm themselves down. I have a distinct memory of being 5 and being in my pantry and eating brown sugar out of a spoon. And so it's like we kind of figure something out for us, and then what fires together wires together. And so that gets repeated over and over again. So when my nervous system gets activated, then the brain is kind of like, I know what will help. I know what we can do. And then we get that connection. But if we can start seeing this as, oh, it's my nervous system. It's not just because I'm broken and I have no willpower and I can't figure this out. And even though I promised that today would be different, here I am doing the exact same thing. It's like, oh no, this is my nervous system. It's not the only reason, but it is a very big reason, and something that really it impacts every single human. And if every human could really understand their nervous system better, it helps us make sense of those times when we do kind of run away, or we get really angry, or we can't get ourselves out of bed or off the couch. That is often a nervous system response.
Once you have that realization and understanding, what are some action items you can take to start to address it?
Yeah. So initially, awareness is always the first step of everything, right? We can't change what we're not aware of. So what I really tell people especially people who don't really know a lot about the nervous system, is I like to explain it very, very simply. So, we have kind of the main states of our nervous system are, we may be where we're grounded, we're connected, we are, it's kind of if you want to use the terminology that nervous system experts use, it's ventral energy. It's, I feel safe. The safe place, I like to call it home base. You kind of feel at home in your body. I'm able to think, I'm able to have a conversation with you, I'm able to take in new information, I'm able to talk about goals, I'm able to get things done on my to-do list. That's kind of grounded home base. Then there's that sympathetic state where that fight or flight, that's where we have a lot of excess energy. I call it above home base. We're above that place. There's a lot of excess energy. Then there's below home base, is kind of more of that dorsal, like that shutdown. I can't get out of bed. I can't get off the couch. And so we can literally just, for basics, start with home base, above, and below. And so what you can do is just tune in several times throughout the day and just ask yourself, where am I in my nervous system? Am I in home base right now? Am I above? Am I below? And if I'm above, what that means is there's this excess energy in my body. So what do I need to do? I need to drain that energy. So what do I want to do? Maybe I want to go take a walk, going for a walk around the block. Maybe anything with rhythm. So walking is beautiful. Music, if there is music that you really enjoy. If you do play an instrument, playing an instrument is really powerful. If you are somebody who's a creative type, maybe painting, drawing, quilting, knitting, those types of things can really help bring some of the energy down. And then if you're below home base, what we need is more energy. So we could do movement here, but if we've got a lot of energy, we might want to move a little bit faster. Maybe we're walking kind of quickly. Maybe if you are somebody who likes to jog, you could go for a jog or go to a class at the gym. If we're below home base, we might want some gentle movement. We might want to splash some cold water on our face or the back of our hands. Music also, we might choose certain songs that we know kind of will elevate our energy. So we can kind of just think about, do I have this excess energy that I need to drain, or do I have no energy that I really want to just get some sort of amount of energy into my system? Because a lot of times what we end up doing is we end up using substances, whether it's food or sugar, or it might be alcohol, it might be social media, it might be shopping, it could be any number of things that we end up doing to try to kind of change our state. But if we're internally aware and we can kind of tune in and see, where am I, then we can start bringing in other ways to kind of balance out that energy. And then really notice, when you're in home base, what did I do to get myself here? When am I more in home base? How can I create more of that for myself? If I notice I get out, if I notice, you know what, I was actually pretty good around 10 o'clock this morning. And by 12, I was above, I could feel my anxiety rising. Then we can get really curious. Well, what happened? What was different? What took place? Is there something that I could do? If we can notice in the moment, what's beautiful about the nervous system is it's not that common that we go from being nice and calm and in home base to boom, I'm so far above home base that I'm like really triggered and, just beyond able to kind of rationally think about things. This happens sometimes, like if we're on the freeway and all of a sudden the semi truck comes over, right? It's like, we might immediately go. Something else might happen that could trigger us or could kind of send us there in an instant. But more often than not, it's the slow increase. It's kind of like you can imagine a tea kettle on the stove. As it gets warmer, and then it boils, and then it makes its noise, whatever that particular tea kettle does. Well, if we can catch ourselves before we blow, take ourselves off of the heat, we're going to be less likely to get to that place in our nervous system where we're so triggered. And the amygdala that's scanning for danger, when it really senses danger, what happens is that our prefrontal cortex goes offline. So the amygdala that's like, we got to keep you safe. We got to keep you safe. No amount of this isn't a good idea, rational thinking. We said we weren't going to do this. When we're really, really, really feel scared, the rational part of our brain goes offline. And that's why we can end up doing things we don't want to be doing. And we actually know aren't going to help when we have that real sense of danger.
So you discovered this secret and you want to share it with the world. So tell us that journey. Tell us about becoming someone who is helping others get through all these problems.
Yeah. So I was a part of a group. I was part of an online weight loss group for a long period of time, and run by a woman by the name of Corinne Crabtree. And Corinne and we ended up going to get certified to life coach school certification together in 2015. And really, for me, it was just, I want to help myself. I wasn't really thinking about helping other people at that point. It was just, I want to help myself. And so we went and we spent 10 days together, and we would be in class during the day. And at night we would go back to our room and we were taking notes and we were coaching ourselves and coaching each other. And we were dreaming up all of these things that we could do and all of these ways that we could help other people and help other women. And I was like, yes, I really want to do this. And so, and had just some powerful experiences there in the whole training process as well. And so came back and was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to create my own business and I'm going to start helping other people with binge eating. And I had a period of time where this was before I had learned about the nervous system. So I think I want to help people. I'm getting certified, but I don't know about the nervous system yet. And so I put up my website and I get to the place where I'm going to be telling people my story. Now, remember, this story has been my very close held secret for a long time. And what I did not anticipate I just had no idea what might come up for my nervous system in this idea that somebody is going to hear my story. And this very closely held secret is now going to be available for others to know about. And I started binging again. And it was like, so here I was trying to help other people with binge eating. I was binging. I had so much shame about that. I knew nothing about the nervous system. It all felt very big. It felt very overwhelming. And I ended up taking a step back for a little bit. It was like, I need to figure some things out for myself. And again, I just kept learning. There's got to be something else. And then I started learning more about the nervous system. And I was like, oh, I see. Okay, this really makes a lot of sense. And so really then bringing in the nervous system, understanding that piece while also now working through the other things. I also started learning more about kind of not only the nervous system, but it was a lot more of the inner world. So when I first went to the life coach school, it was very much you really focus on your thoughts. So what you think creates your feelings, creates your feelings, creates your actions create your results. So it was a lot about what are you thinking. And I think there is a place for that. It is very important for us to be aware of what we're thinking and see how our thoughts do shape how we show up and how our lives are. But that's not the only piece, right? It's kind of like that's the top down approach from what are we thinking and how does that create what various things in our body. But there has to be the bottom up approach. What's happening in the body? What's happening in the nervous system? And then really starting to understand more internal psychology, parts work within internal family systems, other parts psychology modalities. And I was like, oh, yes, this makes so much sense to me. We can't just look at our thoughts. We have to really see what's going on underneath the surface, or as I call it, underneath the hood, right? What's happening not only with the nervous system, but with these parts of us that don't feel safe because of what's happened to us in our past. And if we can then start to dialogue with those parts, to have a conversation with those parts instead of wishing those parts would just go away. I wish I didn't have that part of me. I wish I didn't have that part that, thinks that food is the answer. If that was gone, then my life would just be so much better. It's like, no, actually, we want to get to know that part, understand that part, and we can truly transform what that part does if we're not constantly rejecting it. So for me, it was kind of like this journey of, I want to do this thing. And then recognizing the nervous system. And I would imagine this journey and my journey is probably so similar from anybody's, is that we take a few steps and then we realize, oh, there's a lot more for me to learn. And then we learn, and then whatever we've learned, we kind of put it out in the world, and then, oh, there's more for me to learn. And then, I think we're just kind of on this constant evolution for ourselves. Then we can take it out to our people and then learn more. And then it's kind of like this compound effect where we keep growing. We're able to bring that out into the world and just keep going, really.
You did a workshop for us, which was very enlightening for me. And I think I didn't really understand what binging was. I think we all know that term, but
Yeah.
when you were talking about it, it was like, oh, I see patterns in my daily life that I never associated with that. So can you talk about what binge eating looks
Yeah.
like and the
Yes.
patterns of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So binge eating, without getting into diagnostic manuals or anything like that, there are really some key characteristics of a binge compared to, let's say, overeating. So binge eating is eating large amounts of food, more than would normally be consumed at a period of time. Often it's usually eaten very quickly, often in secret. Oftentimes there are unusual combinations of foods. So you might be eating foods or combinations of foods that you might not normally be eating otherwise. Kind of maybe it's just random things you can find in your pantry, or not something that you would typically just sit down to eat. And the other hallmark with binge eating is experiencing shame. So kind of this feeling, and not only shame, but this feeling of being unable to stop. So it's like, I just can't, like, I can't stop. I can't control myself. I can't stop. And then afterwards, there's generally pretty significant shame. So in some cases, like with overeating, and I don't always even like to get into the distinction. Is it a binge? Is it an overeat? But for some people, it's like, I really like this food and I'm eating it because I really, really enjoy it. With binge eating, there's more of this sense of a loss of control. I can't stop myself. I can't stop eating. And there's kind of a powerlessness to it.
But there's also patterns with food that aren't necessarily binging, right? They're just,
That's right.
No, I
Yes.
do it. Like you were talking about earlier. I'm anxious. What am I going to do? I'm going to go grab a handful of chocolate covered almonds from Trader Joe's that my husband had to bring home from the grocery store yesterday.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Talk a little bit about those kind of patterns and how you work with people who have those.
Yeah, so I think with those and really with anything, it's a matter of again getting under the hood. So what's going on underneath that's having us go towards whether we are eating in this way that's like I feel out of control and I'm eating these crazy volumes of food, or I feel really anxious and so I'm going to go have some chocolate covered almonds. We really can look under the hood in both instances. And so there's really 8 reasons why people eat, why they binge, why they kind of feel out of control around food, really any food patterns. There's 8 main reasons. And so the first one is shame and judgment. And I really like to think of, again, if we look under the hood to see what's going on, shame and judgment is like that 50-pound weight on the hood of the car. And so if we have shame and judgment about ourselves, I shouldn't be doing this, I'm broken, here I go again, I'll never figure this out, we literally can't even get under the hood to see what else is going on. So if we can replace shame and judgment with curiosity and we can get under the hood, we can see that there may be one or more of 7 things that are going on. And so the first one is restriction. So maybe a lot of people who start binge eating have a history of significant restriction. So for a lot of people, they went on a really significant diet, pretty high caloric restriction diet. Then that led to the binging. And then other things can happen after that. So restriction can be physical restriction, mental restriction, just saying, I shouldn't be eating that. These foods are good. These foods are bad. That type of thing. The nervous system we've talked about, just disconnection from the body. So I'm not connected at all with my body. And for a lot of different reasons, some people may be disconnected because of trauma. Some people may be disconnected just because they've always just been more cerebral, more of a logical thinker. But I'm not really in tune with my hunger signals, with my fullness signals, with anything. There's just that disconnection there. Coping mechanism. I feel certain emotions, then I want to eat in order to feel better. Attempt to control. If I feel out of control, a lot of people have this similar feeling of I feel so out of control in every other area of my life, and food seems like this one thing that I can control. So sometimes when people try so hard to control the body, control the appetite, control your weight, it can really backfire and lead to the binge eating. Habit. Anything we do over and over repeatedly again kind of becomes a habit, and some habits serve us well and some don't. A lot of people look at food behaviors as a habit first, and yes, they very much can be a habit. But if we only look at it as a habit without looking at the emotional regulation, the nervous system, the other things, the restriction, the control, if we don't look at those things, then no amount of just looking at the behavior and the habit itself will actually lead to lasting change. And then the last reason is just negative self-talk. The way we talk to ourselves about ourselves in our head, we can really perpetuate that cycle. Yeah.
So then what is body trust and how is that foundational to healing?
Yeah. So this really goes to the reason of disconnection from the body. So many of us are disconnected for a lot of reasons, and we need to learn how to reconnect with the body. Your body is always communicating with you, always. The challenge is that most of us from very young, we've taught ourselves not to listen. We've cut ourselves off. It's like, yeah, I'm tired, but I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep pushing. Yeah, I'm hungry, but I'm just going to, it's not time to eat yet. So I'm going to keep, or no, I'm not hungry, but I'm just going to keep eating because it tastes so good, or whatever it is, right? The body really is always talking to us, but we have literally just cut ourselves off. And so if we can start to develop a relationship where there's this two-way trust with our body. So two-way trust sounds like this. I trust that my body is going to communicate with me. It's going to tell me what it needs. It's going to tell me what it's experiencing, hunger, fullness. I trust that it will do that. And my body trusts that when it communicates with me, I will actually listen. I will respond. Now, most of us don't have that two-way. It's like, no, I don't trust my body. I've been on a diet for so long, I don't even get hunger signals anymore, or I don't even get fullness signals anymore. Or yeah, maybe I get them, but I don't trust it. So I just push, or I don't like what it's saying. So, I'm not going to listen. So it's a process of really tuning in and really reestablishing that relationship with your body and realizing and recognizing it really is always communicating with you, always.
And what about the term safety? What does that mean in terms of
Yeah.
your relationship with food?
Yeah. So there's this thing that I call the safety paradox. And it's this. Many of us, when we were younger, we have this kind of, maybe we have some experience where we talked about the nervous system, right? And so the nervous system, we're triggered, we're up in that fight or flight. We realize, oh, food will help me feel better. It'll kind of like bring me down from that, kind of anxious or worried or fearful place. And so I eat this food and, oh, now I feel better. Then what happens? And many of us can kind of remember, oh yeah, when I was a kid, I remember, maybe when I got hurt, maybe my mother gave me cookies or something like that, right? Then what happens as we get older, these foods that once upon a time we went to feel better, to feel safe, are now not safe at all, because this food is now, I don't trust myself around it. I think once I start, I can't stop. And so it's this safety paradox where it's like, there's this part of me that wants to turn to this food for safety, but then there's this other part that's like, no, that food's not safe. And so really now my nervous system is just like doubly alarmed, because even the one thing that I went to create that safety is no longer creating that safety. So then the paradox is that we need to then learn how to create safety for ourselves through other ways outside of food. And that then gets into some of the nervous system work, really looking at co-regulation, other strategies that we can use when food has been that strategy and that attempt for safety, but it actually doesn't feel safe. So it really does end up feeling like so complicated, because now I don't really have a safe place to go.
What are some of the biggest myths about binge eating that you think you wish people understood?
Well, I would say one myth is that you can tell just by looking at somebody if they have binge eating disorder, or, if they do binge. I remember I went through 2 rounds of intensive outpatient therapy at a local eating disorders treatment center here. And they actually they ended up doing a newspaper article about the eating disorders treatment center. And they asked me if I guess this was my first foray into being in the public about my binge eating. And I said that I would be in this article, and they took a picture of me, and the headline was, "Eating disorders are not always easy to detect." And so it was this, you would never look at me and think, oh yeah, she has a problem, with food or whatever. And the vice versa. You can look at somebody else, and you can look at somebody who is in a bigger body, and some people assume they have a problem with food. That's not always the case either. So one myth for sure is that you can tell if somebody has a problem with binge eating just by looking at them. And that is absolutely not the truth. Another myth about binge eating is that some people believe that once you have, you kind of deal with binge eating, that it will just always be with you. I don't believe that. I do believe that's a myth. I also do believe that for most people, not everybody, but for most people, recovery from binge eating takes a significant period of time. Some people think it's kind of like the two extremes, which binge eating comes a lot from black and white thinking. It comes from all or nothing thinking, the good, the bad, the right, the wrong. I'm eating this bad thing, so I'm going to be perfect tomorrow. So now I have to get it all out of my system. There's a lot of that shows up in binge eating. But there's also a lot of beliefs on either extreme. So there's kind of on this one end that's like, you can just stop right away. And there's another that's like, you'll always do this. And I really fall in the middle. I really believe that, yes, you can absolutely overcome it, and it takes time. So that would be another one. And then I think some people really feel like another myth would be that it's not only that I'll always be this way, but like my thoughts, my preferences, my behaviors around food, like won't change. Like they can't change because I've done this for so long, for so many years. And I would say that's absolutely a myth. I've seen so many people change like in really significant ways. And again, it usually takes time to get there, but the amount of change that is available just with neuroplasticity and the way we can rewire our brains is remarkable if we're willing to continue on with the practicing of the new responses.
So if somebody realizes that they need your support, what does that look like? How do they work with you? What kind of programs do you offer?
Yeah, so I have two programs specifically that are food focused. One is a group program. It's called Cultivate, and what I love about the Cultivate group is that it is a group of people who struggle with food on this journey together. And it's people who are in different stages. Some people who are pretty new into the group. Some people have been in the group for a long time. All different ages, literally all over the world. And so the group is amazing because you really get to be in community with other people who really understand what it's like. And for so many people, they've not talked to anybody about their food struggles. So having that connection is really powerful. That I only open a couple of times a year. So, but that is an option. It's called Cultivate. And then I also do one-on-one support. So if somebody really wants kind of more of the deeper kind of let's get under the hood, working with your nervous system, working with your own internal parts, the parts that show up that have us doing these things with food, really exploring some of that. I do that in one-on-one as well.
So, but before we started recording, you told us that you are expanding your business a little bit. So tell us how that came about and what you're doing.
Yeah. So the other, as we talk about this, it's like the two kind of central themes here really are the nervous system and understanding the internal parts. What's going on underneath the surface, the part psychology, the part that wants to eat, the part that wants to be healthy, the part that wants to move forward on this project, the part that just wants to sit on the couch. We all kind of know what it's like to have these different parts of ourselves. One part wants to do something, the other part doesn't. And I love doing this internal work, both with nervous system and kind of the internal work. I also have been noticing that, and for myself and my clients, there's so much out there to consume that we're busy looking outside of us for answers. And in this fast-paced world with so much information, what we all need more than anything is to slow down, to listen to ourselves. Again, it's kind of back to that body trust. What is my body saying? What is my internal wisdom saying is right for me? Not what I heard, somebody say on a podcast to do the top 5 things this year. And so what I've created is a new space. It's called The Gathering. This is not food specific, but it does bring in the nervous system. It brings in the internal parts. It brings in safety. It brings in, it's really going to be a monthly guided session where you show up and I create a space for you and guide you through nervous system practices to create some safety, the ability to actually slow down. And I walk you through ways that you can hear your own internal wisdom, not looking to somebody else to tell you what to do. So this is not a course. This is not a coaching. It really is it's a safe place to be guided, to slow down and to hear your own wisdom, to kind of stop trying to fix yourself and start learning to listen to your own guidance as to what's next. And so I'm really excited about it. It's called The Gathering, and it literally will be just come and gather, and I will guide you to be able to kind of slow down and listen to your own internal guidance.
I love that. I love slow down has been one of my mantras this year. Like just slow down.
Yes.
You don't have to
Yes.
be busy all the time.
Yes,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for a lot of nervous systems that are kind of just constantly going, slowing down doesn't always feel safe.
Right.
And so a lot of us are like, yes, I need to slow down. But when we try, it's like, no, I can't. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do that. And so this is really designed to help the person who can't slow down on their own create enough safety so that you can slow down and listen, even if it's for 1 hour in the month. Yeah.
Yeah. I personally find my own nervous system ramps up right before I go to bed.
Yes.
I'm lying in bed, ready to fall asleep, and that's when my heart starts racing and things start. And it's like because I finally allowed myself to stop. Right, I stopped
Yes.
with the distractions and with
Yep.
and I
Yep.
stopped, and that's when my nervous system goes, wait a minute.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I love that. So when does this program start?
So it starts in January. The first call will be January 21st, and it will take place on the third Wednesday of every month.
And how can people get in touch with you for this program or to work with you on food issues?
Yeah. So my website is janepilger.com. If you go there, you can get to any of the various places from there.
Excellent. So we have one last two-part question,
Okay.
which is what is your dream for women and what is your dream for yourself?
My dream for women is that every woman would know and believe in her own worth and her own worthiness as it is right here, right now. That you do not have to change, you do not have to do, you do not have to achieve, you do not have to anything. Like you just are worthy and lovable and just amazing right here, right now. That would be my dream for every woman. And as I say it out loud, it would really be my dream for myself too. I mean, if I'm honest, like I love that. Like as I say it, it's like, yes. And I know I'm still a work in progress in that area too.
Thanks for listening to the Passionistas Project podcast. As real-life sisters, best friends, and business partners, we know how rare it is to have a built-in support system. But we also know that so many women, activists, solopreneurs, and purpose-driven people are out there doing it alone and wishing they had a community like ours. That's exactly why we created the Passionistas Project Sisterhood, a space where support, trust, and authenticity come first. When you join, you become part of our extended family. You'll get the tools you need to grow your business, develop personally, and create real social impact. You'll also learn from our Power Passionistas, leaders, changemakers, and experts who share their wisdom on everything from letting go of perfectionism to embracing community and stepping fully into your purpose. Whether it's through online meetups, chat spaces, Passionistas TV and the Passionistas Podcast Network, or our exclusive workshop series, you'll be surrounded by like-minded women and gender non-conforming folks who are just as passionate as you are about living with purpose and making a difference. Visit thepassionistasproject.com to join our free membership and become part of this growing global sisterhood of passionate changemakers. We'll be back next time with another inspiring passionista who's breaking down the barriers and defining success on her own terms. Until then, stay passionate.